The sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
That's a right triangle, you idiot!
Well, just as putting on a pair of glasses didn't make Homer Simpson any smarter, as much as he thought he was, it's a bit like Al and myself sitting behind microphones. Doesn't really make us any better selectors of a football team than what we would be any other time. But we try, and with our team announced for Easter Thursday now, we're going to have a go at breaking down what we think should have happened at the selection table. All good. All right. So I'm coming in blind. I haven't seen the team yet. I'm just opening up.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No,
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm just opening up my email from the club, and I see the headline. The two headlines is Lachie Neale's back and Brandon Starcevich. I nearly called him Craig. It's all right. Just call me Kelly Underwood. Brandon Starcevich is playing his 100th game.
Yes, correct.
And we'll get to that and the rest of the changes because I can see there's a couple there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting ones.
Yes, very. I just want to mention that one bloke who unfortunately will not be selected is Tom Duday.
Yeah, a bit last minute and a bit unexpected.
Very unexpected. I was not aware till I woke up to or got a very early message from you this morning.
Yep.
Obviously happened very late in training yesterday. Must have been after his press conference that he did.
Yeah, well, I thought he would have done his press conference after he did training, so I thought he would have known at that stage. But the press conference definitely seemed like he was gearing up for the game, and they were all expecting him to debut. So interesting circumstances.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes guys come off the track in the middle of training and do a bit of a chat with the whatever media's hanging around, and then they go back on. I've seen it at captain's runs before, so I'm assuming that's what happened, or maybe it was before training. I'm not 100%, but yeah, look, it's a real kick in the ass for Tom. He was obviously by the sounds of it going to be playing this week otherwise.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was that press conference, and then Mike Whiting did an article basically pumping him up for the big game, and it was very underwhelming. I was heading to work this morning when I got a push notification from the club through the app saying that he'd had a minor tear after training for the same knee that he just recovered from, and I sent the screenshot to you and a few other people. Very tragic, very unexpected.
Yeah, and as as I said, when I spoke to him on Saturday after the VFL, he was in good spirits. He said he had no pain anywhere. He said his knee felt good, and it was all good signs and all looked good. So, look, fingers crossed for Tom. I hope he gets himself recovered, without too much hassles and in a good time frame. And look, if he has to sit it out for a little bit longer this time, before he gets into full training and looks towards playing games, so be it. He's only 27, so he's got plenty of time left.
Yeah, look, it's of course he does. 3 ACLs is very tough, and hopefully mentally he can get through on the other side. He seemed to be doing pretty well after coming back from his second. We did mention in our previous episode that we both were a little cautious about bringing him in so soon. We thought he might have needed a little bit more time. And then unfortunately that's happened again. We said the same thing about Connor McKenna as well the week before.
Yep.
And look, there's another selection that's been made for this round that I'm a little nervous about as well. I don't know if you want to jump straight into that or if you want to...
Yeah, we will, because I think that's sort of what we're here to talk about. I just wanted to touch on Duday just, I mean, look, I'm assuming everybody knows by now, but there's probably some who don't. But yeah, so I'm guessing your query on the selection.
Mm,
Oh, well, first we'll just say who's in and who's out.
sure.
So as I said, Lockie Neal's in. He's coming in with
Yep.
Jack Payne, and Darcy Fort's coming into the squad as well.
Yeah.
Um, and the club have made a point of calling him a ruck forward on the press release,
Okay.
and have also made a point of saying that they have been selected by senior coach Chris Fagan and the match committee. So I think they're trying to tell us that they pick the sides, not people on podcasts or people on social media. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So Fort has been named on the bench. Neal and Payne obviously named on the ground, and named on the bench with Fort as well as Devon Robertson, Callum Archie, Lincoln McCarthy, and Kai Lohman.
Mm-hmm.
And the outs, the obvious one's Connor McKenna.
Yep.
Darcy Gardner has gone out, which I'm assuming is for Jack Payne.
Yep, I would say so.
Yep, and the other one is the one we both tipped, and I think most sort of people did as well, is Jared Lyons out for Lockie Neal.
Yep. Which, two of them are absolute no-brainers. Payne for Gardner, Neal for Lyons, no-brainers. The other one's a bit more interesting. Fort for McKenna. Obviously, it's not a one-for-one. I'm assuming they're going to shuffle the board a little bit and move some guys around.
Yeah. Yeah, so, look, Darcy Fort's a very interesting one. I hope, look, he's either going to be the sub or he's going to be the third tall forward, as they like to call it.
Yep.
And maybe he's in there as a bit of backup because the Big O's not having a great start to the season.
Yeah, look, I mean that's something we did talk about for the last two games.
Yeah.
So if that's the plan, I don't disagree with it. I wonder what the rotation is going to look like, and is that going to shuffle the board a bit because we've lost a rebounding defender in McKenna who came in to replace another rebounding defender in Coleman, and we kind of haven't really replaced that position.
Yeah, well, that's right. So there's been a bit of talk around the place this week that a lot of people think that they're going to persevere with Berry down back. I don't like it. I think that's not where he plays his best football. We all know what his best football is and where he plays it, and that's not it.
Yep.
So hoping maybe Zorko goes down there. Now, my guess out of the guys on the bench, I'm hoping like hell Fort's not the sub. I think he's got to start on the ground if he's in the 23.
Yeah.
And just rotate him with Big O or however they want to do it. So I'm guessing it's either going to be Lohman or Robertson.
Yeah, I mean those are the obvious ones. But I talked about it briefly earlier. That I had another concern about a player being brought back in too early, and that's Kai Lohman. I mean, he played in the VFL. I'm not sure if everyone that's listening knows this, but he had an injury scare that didn't look good at all in the VFL game. Now, he was cleared by the medical team, had a scan, and they said that everything was okay. But even still, I would probably give him a week off or something, just to rest it. It just seems very soon. And for him to be I'm assuming that he's going to be the sub because he's always the sub. That's an assumption. Obviously, it's not proven at this stage.
Correct.
Although what I'm looking at here, it does say round one sub is Kai Lohman, so I don't know if that's just a keeping on. But they usually announce that just before the game anyway. So if he is the sub, and we're bringing on a guy who just had a big injury scare as our relief for if someone else gets injured, it just seems a little rushed and maybe not thought through too well. But I could be wrong. He could be totally fine, and it might not even be him. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's Dev, like you said earlier.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the bloke who is probably the most perfect sub for any team in the league is Cal Archie, but he ain't going to be a sub. I don't want him to be anywhere near the sub vest. I want him to be on the ground for 120 minutes.
Yep.
Plus.
Yep, easy. I think
Um,
he's best 22 or best, best 22
yeah,
because not best
yeah,
23 because that would be a
yeah,
sub. Um, yeah, no, I think it would be a shame to put him in a sub role. Um,
yeah.
although I think he would own it and he would dominate in it. I would rather him have a full game under his belt. So I think it's probably going to be either Loman or Dev. I would say probably Loman. I was thinking maybe Pryor was going to come in as a somewhat like for McKenna. He doesn't have the speed, but he is that kind of player, at least closer than Ford is.
Yeah, and Pryor's a pretty good ball user when he's on.
Hmm,
I mean, for a left footer, he's brilliant.
yeah,
And I'm not saying left footers can't kick, but we've got a few left footers in our team that um, a lot of fans like to think can't kick. So
yeah,
I'm not one of them. But anyway,
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting selection this round. So, and then also we should probably touch on Collingwood's changes as well, just to keep everyone
yes.
in the
So
loop.
before we do get to that, and I haven't seen Collingwood's team yet
Hmm.
because I'm looking at the email from the club, but they have sort of made a bit of emphasis on Lions is still being kept in as an emergency
Hmm.
with Jimmy Tunstall and Dara Joyce. Obviously, we know what Tunstall did for us on the weekend in the VFL.
I'm not sure
So,
what else he has to do to get through that door. He's
yeah.
bloody knocking it off the hinges on the
So,
weekend.
what my thoughts are is look, maybe they give Loman until the last minute to prove that his knee's okay.
Yep.
And if it's not, Tunstall or Lyons come in. Now, I would not want to be that guy who's a late out for any club this weekend after what's been said about the Melbourne Football Club in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't eventuate on sort of in that regard. But yeah, I'm just padding while I bring up the Collingwood team, by the way. But yeah, if Loman can't sort of come up at the last minute, then I would prefer to go with Tunstall.
Oh, 100%. I think Tunstall probably should have been brought in to the main team this weekend, even if it was starting on the bench.
Yeah,
Hopefully not as the sub. I think he's earned his chance, and I wouldn't have been risking Loman after the weekend. And you can say the medical team knows what they're doing and all that sort of stuff, which they do. They're professionals, and I am not. I have no medical training whatsoever. But it just for the average man, it kind of just seems like it's something that you shouldn't risk, and you should probably just give him an extra week just to make
yeah,
sure. It seems like that's
100%.
what they've done with Gardner. I mean, it says that he's been omitted, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has been left out just to give him a bit of a rest. I don't think he was dropped on his performance alone.
No, because there's not enough body of work. He only played half a game, but I
Yeah,
thought he was okay in that half a game. Like he wasn't brilliant, but he wasn't terrible, and that's sort of Dizzy to a T anyway. He just
yeah,
goes out and does his job. But I don't really have any medical training either, so I'm going to agree with everything you've said. But
mm,
I do have a lot of experience coaching at different levels, different age groups, and so forth, different genders even.
yep,
Um, and if Kyle Lohman was my player, he would be having this week off.
yep.
5-day turnaround after any sort of injury to me, that's a no-go zone. But look, obviously, we're not in the inner sanctum or the four walls, as they call it.
Yeah,
So we don't know what the thinking is there.
and
And
especially if he is the sub as well, because your sub's
yeah,
supposed to be your fresh legs that comes on and
yes,
possibly turns the game around, in the last half or last quarter, I think something like that. Whereas, like, if it's someone who played last weekend when the rest of the team didn't, so he's not as fresh as the rest of the team, and he had an injury scare, would you want someone in that position to be that guy for your team? I
yeah,
wouldn't personally.
no,
And that's
same.
nothing against Kai himself. That's just based on just what happened last weekend.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's a bit of a watch and see, I guess, on that one.
Definitely.
Um, so to Collingwood, I'm just looking now at their ins and outs.
They're
So
interesting as well.
yeah, Will Hoskin Elliott comes in. He's one of those pesky guys who's a bit like our Rayner. He can go missing and be a bit quiet sometimes. Not so much go missing because that's not fair on Rayner. Hoskin Elliott maybe, but not on Rayner. But he can sort of look like he's gone missing, but then pop up and bang a couple of goals in or hit a big tackle or something like that.
Yeah.
And another guy who fled from the GWS in the early days. There must be a few of them at Collingwood now, but anyway, that's beside
I think
the point.
Carlton's got the most of those.
Well, yeah, when Silvani was the recruiting manager, they definitely had a lot of GWS reserves players.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, let's be better, not bitter. So, yeah, look, I like Will Hoskin-Elliott when he's on. Like, he looks good when he's on.
Yep.
So he's definitely a danger player. I don't recall him doing a lot in the grand final if he played at all, but I reckon there was another game against us last year where I felt like he bobbed up a couple of times and pissed me off, basically.
He's definitely done some good things, and I think the Rayner comparison's pretty good in a sense that they're not really the same kind of player body-wise or even play style-wise, but they both have their quiet moments, but if they're on, they can turn a game and he's get things going.
And he's kind of like that, not really a forward, but not really a mid either. He's sort of what they call a high half forward, if anything. But he pinch hits on the wing and in the mids as well for Collingwood.
Yeah.
Not that I've watched any games this year of any other team except for I've watched one Eagles game and one Richmond game, and they both lost. But that's not unusual for them, is it?
Not in the current stage, no.
Yeah.
2 years ago, that would have been big news, but not so much, last year and this year.
Yeah. So the other end, and this is a guy I really, really respect. I wish he played for us. And it's just whatever reason we never got hold of him, and even when his dad was working for us, and that's Johnny Noble. Really good runner of halfback, probably not the greatest ball user.
Yeah.
But he has the guts and the balls of a heavyweight boxer. He's unreal the way he just competes non-stop.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But to be fair to us, it wasn't just us that overlooked him because he was a mature age recruit mid-season, I think.
Yeah.
A couple of years back.
Yeah.
Missed a few drafts.
I think it's more to the point that we had a bloke running our club who knew everything about him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but look, and his dad played for Fitzroy too, so there was that connection. He wouldn't have been a father-son selection, though.
No, it wouldn't have been close, I think.
David only played 2 senior games. One of them was one of the best one-off games you'll ever see, but that's a story for another day.
Well, David strikes me as the kind of bloke who probably could have made that happen, but probably would have feared how it would have looked from the outside, maybe a bit of nepotism or something like that. I think letting him go to the mid-season draft and just whoever wants him takes him, I think that was probably the best approach.
Yeah, and look, it's other than late last year, it's worked out really well for Johnny. He had a really good run. He was pretty much in the senior team straight away at Collingwood. I think under the Eddie Maguire regime, he sort of was always in the team, so maybe Eddie needs to go back there. Well, Eddie's been in the media talking Collingwood up this week, so maybe that's how the connection reformed.
Well, that sounds like a day ending in Y, doesn't it, Ash?
No, he's actually been really quiet for a while. But I don't know if you've seen this up there because, not everything goes that far up from Melbourne. But so a couple of Collingwood players went out the night before their last game. They went to a Grand Prix function. And they stayed
I didn't hear about this one.
Yeah, so Josh Dacos and Tom Mitchell, maybe? I don't know. Josh Dacos and someone else. And the media were crucifying him. Like, you shouldn't be doing that the night before a big game, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah.
Anyway, it was before the game, not after.
Yeah, the night before. So
yeah,
Josh Dacos was one of Collingwood's best players, mind you. So, it's pretty funny and ironic. But so Eddie Maguire's come out and he's gone, well, it's not the worst thing in the world that these blokes have just gone, watched a couple of speeches by Grand Prix drivers and Formula One drivers and listened to a couple of speeches from the sponsors and had a couple of bottles of water and gone home. When Jack Ginnivan, the night before a grand final, went to the Mini Valley races and had a few beers and a lot of bets. And
Yeah, sounds
I was
about
thinking,
right.
Eddie, he played for your club at the time. You idiot.
Yep.
Like, do you know what you're even saying?
I can't stand Eddie.
Look, Eddie does and has done some amazing things for the game of football in Victoria. I have to add that.
Yeah, put that caveat on there.
Yeah, well, look, back when North Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs were really struggling for money, he bought memberships and did a lot of fundraising for the two clubs on the footy show and that sort of thing. But like, yeah, look, and he's done a lot of things for Melbourne, the city. Like he's clearly like, you know, he has his good moments, but geez, he puts his foot in his mouth a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, it feels like you know, for every good thing that he does, he kind of has to do about five horrendous things just to kind of level it
Yeah.
back out again.
And sometimes you just want to say, Eddie, shut up. But yeah, like, you know,
I think the whole country feels like that.
and look, I'll be honest, I used to like watching the footy show when he hosted it originally back in the day. I don't know if you got it at a reasonable hour back then.
Not at a reasonable hour, but I did watch it.
It's probably like the NRL footy show in Victoria where you get it at like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, mate, Front Bar comes on at like 11 o'clock or something
Oh,
ridiculous.
really? It's like,
Yeah.
like 8:30 or something where I live. But
No, it gets on really late on Channel 7 here.
it's just, yeah. Do they have an NRL equivalent up there? I know you love talking about the NRL.
Oh, mate, you know me, number one ticket holder of the NRL. No, I wouldn't know, to be honest. All I know is that every time I listen to any kind of podcast, I hear bloody Matty Johns pumping up his bloody podcast. That's all I know about the NRL.
Was that the Matty Johns half hour or something like that? Is it called?
Yeah, he's got his own podcast, but he must pay a bucket load for advertising because every podcast I listen to, even if they're not sports related, he's always got ads popping up about his NRL podcast.
I think, and don't quote me on this, I think he works for Foxtel and they have something to do with his podcasts.
I think that there's an NRL equivalent for 360. Hey,
yeah.
I think he's a big part of that.
Yeah, and I know his brother's on Channel 9, is he?
Could be. Yeah.
Look, I don't know. I don't really consume a lot of football media, to be honest. Like as you know,
I used to a lot, and then I kind of fell off of that last year. One just being a lot busier than I had been previously, but just finding myself not enjoying it as much. So just tuning it out.
It's just really.
I can't stand Gary Lyon, and I can't stand most of the guys that host most of the footy show. So I just stopped watching them.
Yeah, I find a lot of those guys hard to swallow. Like there are so many really good commentators and analysts that don't get the sort of the accolades or get the they don't get pushed up to the front of the queue.
No,
I think,
and then we get stuck with BT, clearly being emotionally affected by his favorite teams not doing well and him losing interest in commentating and getting opposition player names wrong.
Yeah, BT's been getting the player names wrong for a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of his trademark at this point.
Because there's more games available and free to air, or because a lot more people can afford Foxtel or KO, it's sort of become more noticeable now. But yeah, geez, I long for the days, and this is well before you were born, of Peter Landy and Sandy Roberts and Bernie Quinlan used to be on the team with there was Drew Morfitt, fellow West Aussie.
I remember the tail end of Sandy Roberts.
Sandy Roberts hung around for a while into the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like he was just so professional and like Drew Morfitt, West Aussie boy. I sold him a newspaper when I did that for a job before I moved to Victoria. So always sort of claimed to fame that I met him once, but we're best buddies after that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but look, we got on a tangent, but that's what we do.
That's what we do here.
So I found it interesting just looking at Collingwood's outs. So deal side bottom managed, that's a big one for us.
Yeah, and the fact that it's managed as well, that could mean anything.
Yeah, like they managed Tom Mitchell, was it last week or the week before?
I try not to watch Collingwood unless we're playing them, to be honest.
Yeah, I just know that for about the 10 minutes of time I spent listening to SEN last week,
Yep.
they were going on about, why don't you just say you dropped him? And whether it was last week or the week before. But anyway, so Steel side bottom, I mean, he'd be what, 33, 34.
Easily.
But look, he played pretty well in the grand final, I've got to admit. He did nothing in the 18 grand final against the Eagles, but against us, he was okay. Unfortunately for us, kicked that goal from outside 50 there. I turned around to the person next to me and said, he hasn't got the legs. I know.
And you were there, weren't you? You were at the ground.
Yeah.
I
was right behind the goals too, and it just landed right in front of me.
Oof.
And I was like, yeah, you just do not jinx your football team ever again, please. Yeah, but the other one that's out is their cult hero, the man with the mustache, Oleg Markov.
Yeah.
And that's a like for like with Johnny Noble, I would say.
Yeah, and he's marked as omitted as well, so he's definitely been dropped.
Yeah. So I don't know what he's done wrong. Like I said, I haven't really been watching anyone else's games, but he's he had a pretty good season last year.
Yeah, well, he was the you said cold hero before, but he also had that tale of he was listed, and then he got the lifeline from McRae, and then he went on to be a grand final hero.
In between that, he spent a year or two up at the Gold Coast as well as a rookie.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I do.
Yeah, and so Hardwick got rid of him. He never really had a good run at Richmond, but I mean, the team they had at the time, it would have been hard.
Yeah,
because who was he going to knock out? Nathan Broad or Nick Flostone. Like, he's not going to knock one of those guys out.
Yeah, no chance.
And went to the Gold Coast. It didn't really work out for him. He got out before his old mate Hardwick went back up there.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting meet. That's happened a few times because there's a few ex-Richmond guys up there. So
yeah,
interesting because I think some of them may have gone up there to try and get away from him, and now he's followed them over there.
Yeah, Mab Toll in particular, and he could not get out of that place quick enough when he found out Hardwick was going up there.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You wonder what the stories are behind the scenes sometimes.
Yeah, but look, and they're all Markov, Chol, the 2 Miles boys that went up there a couple of years back and aren't there anymore. They're all guys that were on the fringe anyway. It's kind of like, I guess, if I don't know, if we got Justin Lepich back as a coach and Ryan Lester went somewhere else or retired, you say, oh, yeah, well, Lester was kind of on the fringe back in the Lepich days. So, yeah, maybe they had a disagreement or something.
Yeah, could be that. Could be anything.
Yeah, that's right. So,
go on, sorry.
So what do you make of Collingwood's stuff anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that Sidebottom was dropped because he's pretty sure he's their vice captain, isn't he?
I don't think he is anymore. I think
okay,
because I think they sort of went because what's his name? Speaking of nepotism, Darcy Moore.
Yeah,
they brought him in to be a younger captain, and Pendlebury sort of moved on from that. So I'm assuming they would have gone with a younger vice captain as well.
Yeah. Yeah, All I know is that Pendlebury's. Oh no, it's Darcy Moore. Darcy Moore's the captain, not even Pendlebury.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was because I was thinking about the list in my head, and I was like, because I know that Pendlebury's the oldest guy in the league now.
Yeah, he's getting up to Dustin Fletcher territory now.
Yeah, that could be really interesting. And then Pendlebury's not that far behind him, I wouldn't imagine. Maybe a year or two.
Well, yeah, he's obviously probably about 10 years younger than him, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I think Dustin Fletcher played till he was 40.
Oh no! Sorry, I mean Sidebottom.
Sidebottom
can't be much younger than Pendlebury.
So mate of mine grew up sort of in the same school and same area as Sidebottom, and at the same age.
Yep.
And I reckon he's about 32 or 33. So yeah. Let me just have a look, see if I can click on his name somewhere and find out. Got my phone in my hand, as is the fashion of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And steel side bottom is. Here he is. He is 33. And
Oh, okay.
he went bald at a very young age, like myself.
Yeah. I can't speak either. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I've got the comb over happening at the moment, so
I'm probably about a year away from shaving.
there you go. Yeah, it's funny how that happens, but yeah. So look, 33, and who was the other one? Pendlebury is 36,
Yeah, wow.
and Pendlebury's
Good on him.
quite a bit taller than side bottom, so he's got a bit more of a body there to carry. But yeah,
That must be the power of a basketball background.
well, yeah, I was waiting for that to come up because
You can't mention him and not mention it. It's
could
almost a law, isn't it?
could you imagine if Pendlebury rocks up somewhere one day wearing a t-shirt with a bloke bouncing a basketball and it says basketball background, and he's gone and got it made on Redbubble or somewhere like that.
Did you see that meme that was floating around about a year ago? Of it was a screenshot of a basketball game, and it was literally Pendlebury sitting on the sideline of a basketball game, and it says, "When the guy with the basketball background becomes the background of the basketball."
Yeah, it rings a bit of a bell. I don't know if I saw that exact one, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
always a lot of jokes about that,
yeah, it's good.
and it's kind of like like when you're watching the women's football and they got all those sort of cross code players, and they always have to bring up, oh yeah, she was like Kate Ashmore, for example, she was a javelin champion back in the day, or um, like as the Irish girls and whatever. I can't remember what sports half of them played, but yeah, like Jessica Wushner
Mm,
was really good at hockey when she was younger and played a bit of soccer, and and now she's a really good footballer. And
yeah,
yeah, it's like, who cares? Like, just commentate on the game.
yep. They got to fill that gap in the when they don't have anything to talk about. Hey, and they always
Yeah,
go into the backgrounds of the players.
yeah. Well, my favourite guy. I don't really like him, but he's the guy that makes me laugh and giggle the most when he's commentating. Is Dwayne Russell.
Yep.
Not just for his one word sentences when he gets excited, but also he likes to tell us a little bit about his knowledge of people.
Mm,
And Swans were playing Geelong at the Health Fund Stadium down the road from where I live.
yep.
Cardinia Park, as the locals call it, because that's its actual name. And Dwayne Russell's like, oh, yeah, Tommy McCartan and Paddy McCartan, they would know a lot about this ground because their dad used to play footy for Colac. Colac is 87 kilometres away from Cardinia Park. And Colac were not in the Geelong Football League when their dad played for them either.
Some of them just talk to hear their own voice sometimes, don't
Oh, yeah, it's true. And I guess that's kind of what we're doing as well. But yeah, but like people don't pay money to listen to us. So that's
they?
the
No.
difference. Yeah. All right. So it's getting probably getting on a little bit, but what are your thoughts on the game, how it pans out, predictions, that sort of thing?
I think we win, but I think it's a close one. I think under a goal. I think 4 points.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be a close, really tight, low-scoring first half,
Mm,
and then a team may break away in the third, and then the other team pegs them back in the last. And I just think that team that really executes the tempo football at the end the best hangs on, and all the talk will be. So, say for example, we win by 3 or 4 points. I won't say 3 or 4 points because that's what everyone else is saying. Say we win by 5 points. All the talk's going to be, oh, Brisbane nearly lost it. But then they'll say, oh, Collingwood, they're just not there anymore. They've lost it. They can't finish games off like they used to. Have I lost you? All right. So it looks like I've lost Al for a second there. He's dropped out. So hopefully he'll be back anytime soon. And we'll continue. All right. So Al's had some problems with his internet connection and he's dropped out from the chat. So I'm gonna finish it up here now. We both went for Brisbane in narrow victory by under a goal. I just did my footy tips on the AFL app, and I had Brisbane by 7 points. So, look, hopefully it's a good game, and the boys can get the job done in front of the home crowd at the Gabba, and get a bit of a monkey off their backs, and even more, hopefully, flick some paint on Collingwood and their absolutely insufferable supporters. Fingers crossed we'll see you then. And until then, go Lions.